everyone, and welcome back. It's Julianne here with another video this week for Trinity Stamps. Seeing as it is the month of July, I really wanted to create a Christmas-inspired card to share with you all today. So for my card today, I used the Mouse House stamp and coordinating die set, the Marshmallow Alphabet dies, and my favorite Slimline series die set, the card panels and windows. So let's just jump right in. To start out my card, I knew I wanted to use the cute little mice that can be found in the Mouse House stamp set, so I decided to make my background look as though it was this giant piece of cheese. To achieve that look, I'm going to be using the largest die that can be found in the card panels and windows die set to die cut out a piece of yellow colored cardstock, and I also did trim down an additional piece of that same yellow cardstock to the same size as my background panel in order to make that the background to my cheese. Once I had both of those panels done, I'm then going to be using some circle dies that I had in my craft room. Any circle dies that you have will work for this as well. And I arranged them throughout my background panel, adding a few of them at a time, and then running them through my die cutting machine. Now you can definitely see here how it's all starting to look like that giant piece of cheese I'm going for. So I'm just going to continue to arrange those circle dies until I'm happy with my background. So I'm just going to run those last few circle dies through my die cutting machine in order to finish adding all the holes that I wanted in my cheese. And then the next step was to add some shading to my background. And for that, I'm going to be doing some ink blending using some Distress Oxide inks. I'm going to be using the colors Mustard Seed as well as Wild Honey today. And I'm going to be starting out with my Mustard Seed, ink blending around the outside edges as well as the edges surrounding each of those circles. And I did want to mention that it is really hard to see the difference in the color on camera, but in person it really was making my background darker, at least I thought it was. But I think if I did this card again, I would definitely use different Distress Oxide ink colors, maybe some dried marigold or even maybe some carved pumpkin would look really nice. Once I had all of that mustard seed done, I then came in with my Wild Honey, ink blending in the same area. And for all of my ink blending today, I am using my Trinity Stamps blending brushes. Once I was happy with my ink blending, I'm going to start working on my coloring. I stamped each of the mice from the Mouse House stamp set a total of 3 times using Memento Tuxedo black ink, and I used the coordinating dies to cut them all out. Now at this point, I didn't really know how many mice I was going to need for my card today, and I did end up having a few left over, but I'll just end up putting them in my packaging with my stamp, and that way I can save them for another card later on. Now I did use a variety of different color combinations for my mice today. I did a brown color combination with E71, E74, and E77. I did 2 gray color combinations, the first being W5, W6, W7, and W4. And lastly, I did T2, T4, and T5. With each color combination, I did start with my lightest shade, working my way out to my darkest and then back down to my lightest before moving on. Once I had that last little mouse all colored in, it was then time for me to start working on assembling my card. To start out, I'm going to be adhering my cheese panel to my background piece of yellow cardstock, and I'm going to be doing that using some foam adhesive, which is going to give my background that little bit of added dimension, which I really think helps in separating the 2 panels from one another. Next, I'm going to start working on my sentiment. I really wanted my sentiment to read, since this is a Christmas card, all I want for Christmas is cheese. I just thought that would be the perfect sentiment with all those cute little mice around it. So to achieve that, I'm going to be using the marshmallow alphabet dies to die cut out each letter to spell the word cheese. And to do that, I'm going to be cutting them all out in that same yellow colored cardstock as well as some foam. And I'm going to be temporarily adhering down those letters using some washi tape. And I'm going to be doing some more ink blending. And just like before, I'm going to be using mustard seed, wild honey, but this time I'm also going to be adding in some of that carved pumpkin. Now with all of my ink blending complete, I'm going to be adhering both my ink blended letters as well as my foam letters together using some liquid adhesive. And while they dry, I'm going to be putting them underneath my magnetic sheet that you see here. And it holds all of my alpha dies. Since it is pretty heavy, that will make sure that they aren't going to go anywhere while I adhere the rest of the letters together. Next, it was time for me to start adhering the rest of my card together. Now, I did feel as though my mice still needed something to make this card more Christmassy, so I stamped out some Christmas hats and colored them in with some red and green markers, and I'm going to be adhering them onto the mice using some more of that liquid adhesive. Now for my sentiment, I searched high and low in my craft room for a sentiment that read, "All I want for Christmas is," but I had absolutely no luck at all. So I used some sentiment strips to die cut down some white cardstock, and I just wrote my sentiment in myself. Now I'm going to be adhering that portion of my sentiment onto my background using some foam adhesive, but for my die cut sentiment, I will be adhering those letters directly to my background using some more liquid adhesive. Finally, to add even more texture to my cheese background, I'm going to be adding in some Nuvo drops today instead of adding sequins like I normally do. I'm going to be using the colors English mustard as well as dandelion yellow, adding the two different colors of Nuvo drops throughout my background. Now what I like to do to make sure that I don't have any air bubbles when doing my drops is I have a little piece of scrap paper off to the side that you can see here, and I'll do a few test drops on there before actually bringing it to my card. That way I don't have any mistakes at the very end of my card. Once I've added in a bunch of those Nuvo drops, I'm then going to wait for them to dry, which really doesn't take that long. And then I'm going to adhere my card to a black card base, and that's going to complete my card for today. I want to thank you all so much for stopping by and spending some time with me. I truly do appreciate it. If you liked this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up, as well as subscribe for even more card making ideas. All the supplies I used in my video today will be listed and linked down below in the description if you are interested. And as always, I hope you have a wonderful day and happy crafting!